I love, 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 love that video. I love it so much that it begins to echo through my head, as you probably heard a minute ago. I love, 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 love that video. At the end of that thing, when they start, that gets silent and they start waving those flags, and I mean, I'm in the jet, and I'm like, let's get this baby going. I can't tell you how much I love that video. I can't tell you how much I love it. Put aside everything I want to do with it. I just love it. But now we got to get to the point here. The point is that this, as I said at the beginning, this is the most boring information that Americans receive, and they receive it hundreds of times. I hear it 15 times a year minimum, and it is a mind blower. Now, I'm watching the feed here, and Silent Gloves out there, who apparently is the Beetlejuice of the Stratosphere Lounge, who's apparently dared me to mention his name in 3 shows running, Des. This is what I've heard. So Silent Gloves, Silent Gloves, Silent Gloves, but I guess it doesn't count all in one. Says he could produce this thing in a weekend. Well, we'll see. Now, some people say they don't want to watch it. Some people said the kid was annoying. That's fine. I understand that. I do. But let me say this. There are a few people out there who can explain conservative principles. There are fewer people out there who can explain them and be funny, but I don't know of anybody out there who can make conservatism sexy except for me. I know you're laughing. You're probably falling off your chairs and aneurysms all around the country. But let me make my case here, okay? Barack Obama won elections because he's got a good smile. And because he dresses like he dresses. Let me tell you something about a thought I had about this video versus something that I say on the road a lot. I say this almost all the time when I'm doing my speaking engagements, either in the Q&A or in the messaging part. Some of you heard me say this before, so let me just tell you how I said it. I said it this morning, actually. I was down in San Clemente. So, when I'm on the road, I will sometimes say to people, how do we reach young people? And I would say, well, for instance, when I talk to high school, I would say, now you all know who George Washington is, right? And they would say, yeah. And they'd say, you know, he's an old guy, and he's wearing a waistcoat and a frilly collar, and he's got a tri-corner hat and stockings, and he's got, you know, a musket, and he's just this old guy with a powdered wig, right? And they go, yeah. And I said, well, that's how George Washington looks to you, but that's not how George Washington looked to the people around George Washington. George Washington sent a note to a tailor in London during the war and said, I would like to purchase 4 of your most fashionable waistcoats in the most stylish colors, and I would like the buttons to be as ornate as possible without appearing ostentatious, because George Washington was the best-dressed man in the world. He was the best-dressed man in the world. That was important to him. He wanted to be the best-dressed man in the world because he figured if he was going to be the leader of a country, he had to look like he was the leader of a country. He had to look like money. So I say to these young people, if George Washington were standing here beside me today, he was 6'4", but he was that much bigger than the average person. He'd be about 6'6" today. And if George Washington were standing here beside me today, George Washington wouldn't be wearing a ruffled collar, and he wouldn't be wearing leg stockings, and he wouldn't be wearing a waistcoat, and he wouldn't be wearing a powdered wig or a tri-cornered hat. If George Washington were standing here next to me today, he'd be wearing a $12,000 Armani suit, he'd have $2,000 shoes, he'd have an $800 haircut, and instead of a musket, he'd have an AR-15 with a laser target designated sight on it, because he was a deadly swinging dude. And I say this to everybody, and everybody gets it, right? Everybody gets it. They get it. I said, that's who that guy was. He was a god. He was a god to these people, and they offered him the kingship of the country, and he walked away. And that's why we like George Washington. They wanted him to be king, and he walked away. They begged him to be president. He agreed to be president. He didn't want to be president for a second term. They got on their knees and begged him. He said, one more term, and that's it. He walked away. They wanted to call him Your Excellency and bow before him. He says, nobody bows before the president of a free people. You may call me Mr. President. Right? So I say this to people, and here I am. I'm 55 years old, and I'm standing in front of a group of people, and I say this, and they get it. But if you think about what you just saw in this video, I just want you to imagine something, okay? Imagine you've got a musical number that's got the same kind of feel as the opening of the Virgin thing, and it's got a nice beat to it. It's really cool, and you've got these super hot dancers out there. Because as I just said, Walter Almeida said, I'm not preaching to the choir. The choir doesn't need conversion. The heathens need conversion. So if I've got on stage there, a stage kind of like that, a big open area, And I've got a guy standing there who looks like George Washington, right? And he's wearing the waistcoat. And he's 6'6", let's say. And he looks a little bit older. And he's got kind of powdered makeup on, you know, and he's got the powdered wig and the tri-corner hat and all this other stuff. And you've got this music going on. And I'm in the deep background, saying, that's not how George Washington looked to his fellow countrymen. And then instead of me just explaining it, what if these three smoking hot women came up to this guy and just with two pulls just ripped all of those clothes off of him? It was a breakaway costume, just completely breaks away. And standing there on the stage is a 6'6", buff, cut, gorgeous guy in boxer briefs. And they pull the powdered wig off him, they shoot some mousse in his hair, and they muffs his hair up and give him like a, give him a real stylish look. And in a series of fast cuts, he's getting into like a, into a Calvin Klein shirt, and they put an Armani suit on him, and he does the James Bond kind of cufflink pull, and he stands there, and somebody throws an AR-15 to him. He takes a magazine out of his pocket, locks it, racks it, turns on the sight, and I said, that's who George Washington was. George Washington was a swinging, deadly dude, and that's why we like him. And you see this guy standing there like an Adonis, this young, handsome, gorgeous, fit guy. That's who George Washington was. If you can do that, you will destroy the left. You'll destroy them. You'll destroy them. The only thing they have is hip. That's it. They have hip. They have image. They have sexy. They have hip. That's all. They've got no message. They've got a track record of absolute, utter failure. And that's all they've got. So if we start using these weapons against them, they're never going to recover. They're never going to know what to do. This is the kind of thing I've been talking about for 2 years now. I know a lot of people like the work I do. I like the work I do because I do it. I'm proud of it. But me standing in front of a screen talking to conservatives about conservative values is one thing. That's us holding a line in a trench against the enemy. We've got to get a team of special forces out there in the culture, and we've got to get 400 miles in their rear and start blowing up supply dumps and ammunition dumps, and we need to start knocking bridges down, and we need to start bumping off convoys, and we need to get in the rear of these guys and get behind them and flank them. I don't want to compete with the left. I don't want to go head-to-head with them. I don't want to out-argue them. They don't argue. I don't want to out-snark them. I want to out-cool them. I want to be cooler than they are. I want to be sexier than they are. I want to be hotter than they are. I want to be happier than they are. I want to be richer than they are. I want to be better dressed. I'm telling you, whether you believe it or not, I don't care. I do care, but I believe it. I believe it. And I'm telling you, it's going to change the world. If that thing got 10 million views, just as a safety video for an airline thing, I'm telling you, you're looking at 30, 40 million views. You put together 5 core principles of conservatism in a way that is that dynamic and that interesting and that exciting, you're going to change the world. Just to give you one more quick little example, my favorite personal, I agree with people who thought that both those kids were a little annoying. I think they both needed to be spanked. But put that aside. The robot guys doing the Life Vest thing, by the way, the very, very, very first Singularity I ever posted on BillWhittle.com was that same dance group, those same robot guys. I could watch them do that, and I have. I could watch them do that Life Vest segment 100 times. I can't stop watching it. But think about this. At the very end of this thing, you got this kind of solemn moment. You got 3 or 4 of the flight attendants coming forward. Lights go down. Everybody's looking down, and they're kind of saying, we're about to take off now. If you have any questions, they get it real serious. And then instead of ending it serious, there's this guys come running in and they're waving flags, and watch it again. You can find it on YouTube. It's Virgin American Safety Video. Watch it again. The most important thing about that video is the subtlest thing about that video. And the most important thing about that video is everybody is happy. Everybody is happy. Everybody's smiling. Everybody's having a good time. At the very end, when they start doing this fast cut out, watch it very, very carefully. You'll see somebody in the middle of the room doing a breakdance move or something, but watch all the other dancers. All the other dancers are watching that person, and they're smiling, and everybody's happy. And why wouldn't they be? Because they're free people, right? They're about to go fly into the stratosphere on Virgin America, and there's nothing better that could happen to a human being as far as they're concerned. When those guys come into the end of this thing, you find that when they come into the end of this thing, waving those orange flags and holding up those orange safety cards, they're overjoyed. And this is what we don't have any of on the conservative side. None. Zero. None. We don't see any of the joy. We don't see any of the happiness. Why not? You know, I say this every time I go out on the street. I did it today at an event in San Clemente this morning. If you can't sell freedom, hot women, fast cars, and loud guns to kids, you probably should find another line of work. Honestly, you really should find another line of work. If you can't sell that to people, I can't help you. This kind of thing could change the world. Because if you can do one of these things, and just 5 principles, that's all, then people on our team will start to realize, oh, okay, wait a minute, let's see about hiring this guy to do something else. It's all they have, right? I mean, it's all they have. They just have cool. They just have cool and hip and sexy and pretty, and that's it. And folks, I hate to break this to you, but that's all young people care about. It'd be nice if it weren't true, but it is true. And so we can either grumble about it as we march into the dustbin of history, or we can get in there and start using those weapons against them. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with these weapons. This isn't like low or underhanded. I mean, why wouldn't you want to be young and sexy and hot? We're the ones who are talking about freedom. It's them who's trying to get everybody to tell you how big a soft drink you can eat, drink, and they're the ones that want to enslave people. To hell with it. I'm tired of losing to these weenies. If I'm going to lose to somebody, I'd rather lose to Nazis, somebody with machine guns and helmets and stuff and tanks. I cannot bear to lose to people like Barack Obama anymore just because the guy has a nice suit and tie. I'm not going to do it. I'm not. So I think I get the money for this. I think I get the money for this pretty easily, and I think I'm going to do it. And I think I'm going to do it quickly because I think, Des, there's a message for you on the right there on the thing from Silent Gloves, Silent Gloves, Silent Gloves. It needs to be done. It has to be done. It's important, and it would be fun, and it'd be cool. It'd be great members-only content, and we would still keep doing the stuff that we're doing. But let me just say one more thing before I show you one other thing. The reason we're getting whacked today is because people who are conservative, and there's a lot of them out there, they have no place to land, right? They're like Amelia Earhart over the Pacific Ocean, and they've got no place to land. They don't have any cultural islands to land on. We don't have to drain the ocean. We just have to put a couple of landing strips out there so people have a place to land. And what can a young person point to that's about us, that's on our team, that they're proud of? I'm proud of the work I do, but I mean, I'm talking about young people now. And one other thing I think I'll say, I am not much interested in going after 25, 24-year-olds, 25, 26, 17 not even 19, 20-year-olds. I want to go after 14, 15, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds. I want to go after the kids whose older brothers and older sisters are the ones who voted for this clown, and I want to give those kids something to be proud of. I want to give them something that they think is cool.